Hello and welcome everyone to the Paladins Premier League. It's the last day of week number 3. My name is Gormizer, and joining me on the desk before these games is Rain Day and Pretty Hair. And today we get a Splyce doubleheader. I don't know if you're as excited as I am about it, but
Probably
especially
not.
with the way they've been going on the upward trend, I would say, for Splyce, I think it's going to be some good sets.
Oh, I had to get a cup of coffee because I feel warm inside, and I needed to match that feeling because honestly, it is a very exciting day for us. Not only is the PPL turned upside down with Splyce's performance, but it's given us a lot of new stars and people to talk about.
Absolutely. This is a squad that's been together for a long time now. It's cool to see them come together, right? Instead of, following in that Splyce tradition of, going 0-8 and then splitting up and, reforming the roster. So finally seeing guys that are hungry for it, guys that come in and work for it. It's really good to see that start to pay off.
So they were able to take G2 to 5 games, which was something I think not really many people expected, especially with G2 usually being able to show a lot of strength. But Splyce came out and kind of blew everyone's minds. The question I think I have today is this a viable set for them to actually win against Envy? Can they actually take Envy to 5 games whether or not they win, or is this going to be something that leans way more in Envy's favor?
I think it's up to Envy. Honestly.
It definitely. And I think Envy have prepared already. We saw some tweets from Random Noob TV, and we can't bring him on the screen, but check out his Twitter. You'll see that he's saying we have some big boy drafts prepared for Splyce today. We are not going to be caught off guard. And maybe there was a little bit of getting caught off guard by G2 Esports, who traditionally have just swept through Splyce and had a man that wasn't really on their team.
That's a big part of it. If there's any moments where Envy are uncomfortable, like they looked a little bit on that Stone Keep game, and, Random is very gracious. He gave all the credit to SK for that set and for the great that SK was able to do there. But we were questioning the Vivian, we were questioning the Eevee, and just Envy looking like a little bit not knowing quite what they wanted to do or accomplish with that draft. If that type of stuff happens today, which it doesn't seem like it's going to given what Random was saying on Twitter, I don't know. I think Splyce are going to have a tough time with it.
It's also beneficial. I mean, they have a coach, one of the teams that notably has a strong coach in Meta Pusher.
It matters online,
and that will make a big difference, like you were saying. If a draft catches you off guard or something, you have someone who is going to prepare that kind of thing for you or with you. Yeah. So I'm kind of looking towards that, but I'm also looking towards some of the carries that have been coming through. Ricotta and Shadow are 2 members that we've been talking about for Splyce a lot lately because them as a duo has been phenomenal. How do you think they're going to be able to hold up versus the flexibility of Envy? I mean, Envy can have anywhere from 2 to 3 damage players, and you never know which member is going to be that damage carry.
I think if we see Ricotta and Shadow have performances they had last week, but now against Envy, they're the real deal in my opinion. I already consider them the real deal. They've shown enough, but today would be a real test of faith because this is an Envy who expects Splyce to be good, who have prepared for Splyce, and if Shadow and Ricotta still get to their spot, still get their kills, still have positive KDAs, I'm impressed.
That's what's going to make it difficult, man, because now Envy, they're on the radar. You know
they know.
That Splyce are on the radar for a lot of these PPL teams. And, everyone says, we prepare for everyone the same, blah, blah, blah. Mentally, I think there is a little bit more that probably goes into that set historically versus like a Renegades or a G2 as opposed to an SK or a Splyce of today. But that's just starting to turn around now with Splyce looking better and better.
Envy are the Splyce before Splyce. I mean, they were in a similar position, and they got an influx of new players, and they had a new kind of change in mentality, and they are where they are now. So this is a very interesting dynamic, full circle, so to speak, between these two teams.
And we always end up looking at like the carries because when you look at Envy, it is like, Rock Monkey being able to come in. But Rubu was also in that kind of take when it was, we need to bring in some players from the PGS. We need to find those new guys. And I'm kind of curious what you feel, instead of looking at the damage, looking at kind of the front line, Rubu and Tulki really going up against G-Bunny and Vayne. G-Bunny and Vayne haven't really been in the conversation that much lately, but I feel like they are in the same role as what we would see Rubu and Tulki.
I'll be honest, I think that's where Envy are going to have the easier time winning this set. I think those are world-class front lines. And I think you look at, that game we saw some clips from earlier with Random Noob specifically. That was that game where Rock was sitting there with Kinessa not doing much. That whole set was just like kind of twiddling his thumbs more or less because the front line was locking it down so strongly. That's going to be where Splyce, I think, struggle to match up.
We know where Envy have the driver's seat, and it's in Meta Pusher's hands, it's in Rubu's hands as far as drafts and things like that, and you see Rock and Random Noob, they will contribute, they will talk about what they like. Tulki, obviously, will be a voice in those conversations, but I don't know where the drive happens for Splyce. I don't know if this is Ricotta making most of the decisions and trying to say, let me get a damage champion. If so, I think that may hurt them, because Envy are a very good draft. They don't draft for just one character, like a Hecate maybe draft style for a, Nocturne's Gaming of past, right? And I think that if you do have a more traditional draft coming through that favors Envy, that's where Splyce will get caught off guard. If they can match them there, I'm actually really excited to see how tight the set will be.
It's a battle on two fronts. The front lines make a huge difference for Team Envy, and it has in the past, but both of the damage sides have as well. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go, but it's not just Envy that Splyce have to prepare for today. They also have to prepare for Renegades, which might be easier, might not. I mean, where are Renegades right now? The first week, they looked fantastic. The second week, they didn't look as fantastic. Where are they for week 3?
They're in Wonderland. They went down the rabbit hole and have not found a way out, and they're just going deeper and deeper because we have less and less answers the more we watch. Are they going to turn this around? Is this them now? What can you make of this, Nick?
I don't know. They don't seem like they have a real team identity to me, to be honest. Splyce, 0-8, hungry for those wins, hungry to get something, right? SK, they had their fall from grace. They used to be at the top. Renegades has sort of always been middle of the road. They always get that technicality spot at the LAN. It's like, I don't know how hungry this squad is. It's really kind of puzzling to me. And I think lacking that real driving force, lacking people saying, oh, this is the worst team in the league, or what happened to this team like they do with Splyce and SK, I think not hearing that stuff can honestly slow you down a little bit. And, lacking that drive is something that would hurt Renegades in the long run. So finding that team identity of, what are the Renegades in the PPL? Are they hot? Are they cold? Are they going to be able to take down G2 consistently? I just really don't know how I would identify the Renegades currently.
I was going to actually lead in and say that this used to be at least an easy set. You'd say Renegades are going to win this 3-0. I think the same thing would be for Envy. You'd just say this is going to be a set of 3-0s. We're going to see kind of what we saw just a couple days ago where it's just a clean sweep. We're going to be in and done in 2 hours, no big deal. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and it's weird to ask this question and feel myself asking it, but are Renegades actually strong enough to beat Splyce? Do we think that Splyce can win this, or is this a sure set for Renegades?
I don't think anything's sure, but I definitely think that Splyce have the tools and have playing the way to beat Renegades. In fact, if I was going to vote and you had to take one side or the other, I would choose Splyce to win the Renegade set. I would expect the onus to be on Renegades to perform the way Shadow and Rakata have shown. They are consistent enough, confident enough, and hungry enough to own this matchup. I think Renegades, you're right, Nick, maybe lost a little bit at sea, still trying to find their way towards their North Star.
I'm so happy that they blended a Shadow into Random Noob, because watching that Shadow Drogo's back, it looked exactly like something you would see out of Envy.
That was a good-ass play. That was a really good play. And that's a big part of, this set is these drafts, these picks, the Drogos, Leon, Willow, and Nara, those types of things, huddling under the Solar Blessing only to get obliterated by Fire Spits. I mean, I'm very curious to see what that big boy draft from Envy is going to look like.
So
I think it's just trying to hurt him, honestly. I think it's going to try to hurt Shadow and Rakata.
At the end of the day, what does it mean if Renegades can win or if Splyce win? Does that make a big difference for North America if Splyce are able to win this?
Oh, absolutely.
Does it just, hey, Splyce is on the up and
just because of historically Renegades would win this set, I'm not as excited if Renegades win the set. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the way things go here. But I think I'd still do, to the same note, get pretty excited if Splyce are able to take this one up because, that's such a market improvement for them. I mean, they got their 1 win last split against SK, right? They'll probably get 2, hopefully, this split against them. But this is that next hurdle for them, beating a top 3 team in North America.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot that goes down in the draft. Envy mentioning that they have big boy drafts. The
Can't
fact
wait
that
for
Jogos, I think, is going to be very big, not only between Splyce and Envy, but also on Renegades as well.
It's going to be in the bans that they try to hurt these guys and trying to take away things that make Shadow and Rakata test their god pool, in my opinion. And I also think you're going to see a hard prioritization over, you're right, the Tolki, the Rubu situation. They're so flexible, and I don't know how flexible Splyce are. We're going to have to wait and see, but 2 great teams clashing right now today.
I'm excited to see it, and I think everyone else is as well, so we might as well just go ahead and get right into it. We're going to go to a quick break and then be right back immediately with Set 1, Splyce versus Envy.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paladins Premier League. My name's Rain Day. That's Gormizer. We were dancing a little bit, but now it's time to see how the dancing goes when the 2 teams in North America playing right now, Envy and Splyce, go head-to-head. But before we get into that, we do want to let you know that HRX is right around the corner, and you should find yourself some tickets at highresexpo.com. for November 16th through 18th. You do not want to miss the biggest event of the year.
With the way the split's been going, literally any of these teams could actually be there, so it's going to be nothing that you want to miss out on.
The after party as well, a great opportunity to make some memories, continue the fun, and talk with all your pros and casters and friends that you've met at the event. hrxafterparty.eventbrite.com. It will take place at Main Event. Look up Main Event. It is a ton of fun, so much to do. Only $50 for those. Of course, we do want to take a look at the standings and let our viewers who are watching now see where we have come in order to get here. What's the past been like? And Splyce and Renegades, well, they've had a very similar one. Maybe some soulmates meeting up with each other as far as how this set has gone. Hey, I see myself in you. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And who's going to be 2 and 2 here? That's the question that we want to know.
If Splyce have a rough day, they could be 2 and 3. If they have a great day, it could be 3 and 2.
That's
they
right.
might be able to swing things around with these 2 games. So a lot, I want to say, not only on the line and standings-wise, but again, being able to precede themselves. Just looking at the rest of the fall split, being able to say, look, guys, like, we're the one team so far that's been able to take down Envy. What do you have?
It's really cool because we have question marks about a lot of these sets this season, and that's not something we've always had the privilege of having, where it was almost guaranteed this was the team that was going to win. Splyce and Envy, I don't know if anyone's guaranteed that any win is happening on either side, but I think the dice would be favoring Envy if you had to take a gamble on it. Let's head into the maps for game number 1, see where Envy have selected to go. Ascension Peak, this is a map we've seen Splyce actually perform quite well on. And Envy banning out the ice mines, do not want anything crazy. And it will be Splyce's pick, as we are hearing now. That's why the Ascension Peak rings true for familiarity with that team.
And that ice mines is, we saw what you did with Koga last week.
We saw
we are
your
not
little
letting
strats.
you take that. And it's just, again, in that vein of, you were able to take G2 to map 5 because they didn't, if they expected ice mines, which most teams don't, they didn't expect the Koga on the ice mines, which is where a lot of the proficiency came from Splyce. So I'm expecting them, again, to come into this one. Drogo's going to be big. Khan is always big for this team. And I'm wondering if Envy are going to try to just take as much away as they can.
Feels like Leon Drogo's here. Yeah. Okay, so they banned the Inara Makoa. Splyce respond with the Andro Ash. Leaves him Khan, but it takes away some of the damage threats that Ricotta and Shadow have both played. Now, I was assuming that Envy was going to try to hit him where it hurts, and that is truly the case, but they still have the Cassie. That is very standard, and in fact, I believe Ricotta did play Cassie on this map and left Shadow to play the Drogos here, so that's still familiar for him.
And I like the way that Splyce approaches, because if you're going for a second front line, so you have Khan, and you're like, well, we need someone to fight maybe more on the point. Envy go for 2 DBS, and you're like, all right, well, who do they want as their front line? They banned out Inara, so we don't have to worry about that. Take away Rubu's Fernando immediately. It doesn't matter whether your Fernando is that great or not. You don't want Envy to have it.
Yeah.
And if you use your bans on something like Ashe, which both Rubu and Tolki are phenomenal on, and the Androxus, I like the way they've curved it. And the Kinessa, I actually expect to see Ricotta kind of curve onto this one.
Yeah, and I mean, Barrick and Ruck is becoming more and more of a pair we see oftentimes. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tinkering nature of both the robot and the Master Tinkerer there, who find themselves together, maybe old friends reuniting. Truly the case in Paladins. Some of the earlier tanks available in the game. Ascension Peak. This is where we start off this best of 5 set in the PPL. Splyce versus Envy. And G-Bunny will be on the con. It will be Ricotta actually taking control of the Kinessa, with Shadow running the Impulse Cassie.
Envy have a habit of doing something, and I think this is part of the reason you see both them and Na'Vi at the top, and that's that they learn very well from what Na'Vi's doing. They play very similarly to Na'Vi as a team, and I think that is one of the things that makes them not only so strong on land, but strong online. They are watching Europe, they are paying attention to the rest of the world, and they're looking at things that maybe aren't usual in North America in your ranked games and your scrims, and trying to bring them in. This feels like a very novice, not as Vincier kind of draft.
It does.
But it also feels like an Envy draft.
G-Bunny is getting hit by the presence. Rock Monkey allows the team to move forward a little bit. Tolki feels confident now contesting the con. A lot of damage, though, from Vayne. Rock Monkey, Ricotta having a very similar God pool. Vayne is in trouble. He needs a heal, and he can't get it. Rubu finds the kill onto that one. Now the high ground goes to Ruckus. But they're not going to move forward. They're just going to hold this corner. They're fine. Team Envy now 18% counting.
My eyes are on Shadow, Ricotta. Ricotta actually having to fall back. Shadow being forced away as well. And both of them, again, working in tandem. You have Cassie who can clean up after a good Kinessa shot. but there's not as many places for Kinessa to stand that are going to feel safe, especially with that zoom. You see how enhanced it gets.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for Rakata to find a comfortable spot that's also going to be close to the point.
Mr. Hayes doing so well not to peek his head out. 78% counting for Envy now, and he's trying to find Rock Monkey, but she doesn't take much damage. Not even a fully charged shot to the body. Another shot. It does hit Random Noob, but it's not enough to finish them off. It just feels like Envy have a little bit of an easier performing lineup. Rock Monkey and Tolkien. Rock Monkey finding a double, and that is going to do it. Envy will grab this first objective. Splyce have to back off.
The difference between these two drafts, and it's something you had just said, but I think it's important to touch on, is like execution base.
Yeah.
How difficult is Envy's lineup to actually get going, which it's not. Drogos, they play all the time. Leon, they play all the time. Barrack, Ruckus, Furia. Not necessarily sleepers. You still have to perform, but it's going to be second nature to them. It's muscle memory at this point. Whereas Splyce, you're looking at Rakata. If he can find double kills like that the entire game, they can win. But if it's just a couple of moments where he's not having an impact, all of a sudden Envy just storm over Splyce.
And I think that's what Envy have tried to do. I think they're going to try to isolate these win conditions, make sure they don't get beat in the draft, which is one of the things Envy does so well. They draft well. But it also, again, with the varied kind of overlapping god pools of Rock Monkey and Rakata, they're trying to make sure that Rock feels safe, that whatever he gets can perform a little bit easier than whatever Rock Monkey gets. And Shadow on the Cassie having a decent impact, but not the same, at least thus far as we've seen him on the Drogos or the Willow.
Dragon Punch comes through, but not connecting with anything. Random Noob calls it off just a little early so he doesn't dive too deep. G-Bunny having a good retreat, but unfortunately for Splyce, even though they were able to get that ult, they haven't been able to gain any ground or anything to really return off of it. The value that Envy got is just a ton of space. They force all the front lines to run away.
And what's happening is in the meanwhile, Rubu's finding kills on the snipers while Shadow's poking out but not quite killing Rock Monkey. And those little things tend to make the difference in these sets. Vayne getting low, Rock finds another Enlightenment, but it forces out the Immortal, and Vayne's gonna die in vain. I'm not sure that was a necessary Fernando ult.
And again, the pressure coming down, looking at the front lines with something we had mentioned, Rubu just sitting on the side. No one is looking at him. He is just getting free damage. Finally, Shadow starts taking some shots, but it's not until Tolkien gets 2 kills.
Beautiful rotation, beautiful play. I mean, this is what Rubu's trying to do on the Ruckus. It's such a comfort pick. One of his highlights, introduction videos to the PPL, was him getting a Hexafire pentakill against what I believe was SK Gaming at that time, or at least was in that same LAN. Everyone on Envy looking on a champion like they've been very, very comfortable from the outset.
Something you would know their names for, and again, this is something we mentioned on the desk, and I think it bears worth mentioning here because it is just what's been impactful. Rubu and Tolkien playing these two front lines, aggressive front lines at that, are keeping G-Bunny and Vayne either locked down or pushed out to the point where Rakata, Shadow, Aspect don't feel safe where they're standing. They're always stepping back. They're always retreating from the fight. And as long as Envy can keep that kind of pressure up, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a long map, at least here.
And what they've done is they've also taken away a lot of the blaster prioritization in terms of damage. So the AoE splash, Envy all going for the direct damage, which is basically all it is except the Cassie blast shot. And Haven is seen across the board. Again, a very aggressive play. It's Aspect and Rakata, though, finding a couple kills, and Random Noob now gets taken down. So this should open some stuff up for the sniper. Splyce with comeback mechanic, 45% and counting now on the objective. Looking to zone away.
A couple of good shots here from Rakata would literally make the difference between being able to capture this and not. 85% comeback mechanic's great, but Random Noob through the window, looking to come down.
Through the wall.
Does go through the wall as well, just not going to find a kill until afterward with a nice salvo.
And it was enough. That's all that mattered, and it opens up so much room. I mean, nobody in their right mind as well was looking at Rock Monkey during that time, especially Rakata, who had the wrong angle. It was a guess, and he just guessed wrong. And is that him off the map? Oh no, Random Noob sends G-Bunny to the depths, and that is now a more secured zone from Team Envy.
For Splyce picking this map, that's one of those few things. That's a mistake that you make from not knowing the map or not knowing your position, the draft you're playing against as well.
Oh, no.
We've seen it actually in OCE when Kanga would knock people off with using Cassie on this map, just finding the angle, forcing people to stand next to the edge. And it feels kind of like Envy are corralling people in that same nature. And even though Splyce with comeback mechanic get up to, I think, 85%, they just weren't able to control enough of the ground.
And I think Khan has seen a lot of weakness here, especially with that battle shout instantly mitigated as far as the healing, the sustain that it has with the Leon on the other side. He's getting that 1,000 health now. Drogo's not running the Cauterize. But the follow the scent there, something that's going to hopefully keep him down. Shield up, shield down, doesn't have it anymore. Enlightenment trying to hit it will. Rock Monkey finds Shadow in the back gore. Moldava trying to keep G-Bunny alive, but more and more, it looks like this is going to be Team Envy 4-0ing on Ascension Peak.
Rubu looks like he was trying to go for just Rubu Part 2, where he stands in the corner and just gets a bunch of free fire. That time, it doesn't exist as long for them, but again, the space he gives just dying there, being able to get aggressive, force them either into the base or to get a kill. It kind of locks down Splyce and ties their hands behind their back.
And you could just say, what would this have been if Ricotta could have been on the Shadow, on the Cassie, and Shadow could have been on something like a Willow, if Shadow could have had some area denial to force Tolki away, to burst down the Ruckus. Barrick and Ruckus in this game looked like Inara as far as their sustain. I'm not even sure Rubu died at all.
There was a lot of control. He did die, but only once at the end because he was diving into 4 members of Splyce. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's a true death as far as things are concerned. A lot of ground control from the Ruckus, a lot of ground control from Tolki on the Barrick. And again, at the point where if you're looking at the frontline matchup, G-Bunny, Vayne were almost always retreating. They were never there to be kind of, again, the frontline that you need for Ricotta.
Yeah, to me, it was a severe lack of pressure. When you look at Ricotta, take him out, and you look at Rock Monkey, take him out. Say they work on each other. You got Fernando, Damba, Khan, and Cassie. But then you look at the Drogos, Barrick, Furia, Ruckus, and I think you have to give the edge to the Drogos, Barrick, Furia, and Ruckus here as far as that 4-man kind of win. Now you add Rock Monkey contributing a little bit more consistent damage, the anti-heal, Ricotta maybe having moments, but not as consistently, and I think Envy, again, just force a lot of success in this game based on whether Ricotta hits a big headshot or not to start out the round, and that just didn't happen enough.
And again, when it came down to it, it felt like Envy kind of drove them into that you have to perform, like you have to have a high execution draft if you want to be able to beat us, but because it's high execution, you're not going to be comfortable enough to take on us, Envy, at this point.
Exactly. Envy just working like a well-oiled machine. I always like to look at, if you got a 4-0 loss in Paladins, there's really only a couple things. If it's in casual, maybe there's just a pro on the other side and he's going 31-0 and it's in vocal on a good day. And the other times is that you just got outdrafted and you literally don't have the anti-heal. Maybe it's a Grok and a Grover and everyone just buys Deft Hands and you're just like, well, we can't kill the Inara here on Bright Marsh. It's literally just statistically impossible. And you go down, and I think right here the Ruckus was the anomaly. They had no one to deal with him, and he was free-firing. It was probably one of Rubu's easier games in the entirety of the PPL.
And again, it comes down to where Kinessa's strengths are on this map and where her weaknesses come into. A while ago, Kinessa was going to be phenomenal on this because the scope was pretty much non-existent. Like, it would zoom you in a little bit. Now, feeling a lot more like a sniper, she has a couple of places that she can truly post up, but then once you get into the angle where Rubu was fighting at, you can't really zoom in on him. You're just going to see a goblin face, and that's about it.
Absolutely. Well, let's take it to map number 2 here as we continue the PPL. Frog Isle. It's not a great map for me to look and say Envy has control because obviously Envy beating Splyce 4-0 on their own map. Now this is a fast map, and if you do have that same type of 1-0, 2-0 push, the game is going to be done in 6 minutes most likely.
I'm thinking about snipers. Where are Kinessa and Strix going to fall on this map? I mean, Ricotta obviously does not mind pulling them out if need be, but it still feels a little awkward, I would say, if Splyce go for it very early on. Envy prioritizing the Fernando. They get rid of Khan and Nara, and I think they're taking the strides that we've wanted to see out of some European teams where it's just, ban the Inara. She is worth the ban. She is just such a good frontline that she's worth getting rid of.
I mean, the thing is, I honestly think that they're just testing, it's all of testing Splyce, right? Because Envy, and this is what I expected with the Ashe, Tolki and Rubu can go into these off-meta, not top 4 ban front lines really, really well and not skip a beat. And can Splyce do that? Can they reciprocate? Can they have as much value? I mean, out of a Barrick, a second pick Barrick is what Envy just forced. And now they're going to get the Ruckus here. It seems like an interesting one, but I see why they go for it, just to leave that damage flex open because Envy may bring something out a little bit unique. They don't want to get surprised.
Strix is still available, so if they go for Willow, which is kind of what I was looking at, Drogo's banned away, Willow getting grabbed up. Strix isn't bad against her. It's not going to be a really good matchup, but if you're looking for someone who can handle Kinessa like toe for toe, he's probably going to be your best bet. Unfortunately, it's still, again, like the worst matchup of the two.
And you can tell why. It's Envy have had random noob on Drogos and now Willow. Splyce, what do we thought of when we've seen Shadow playing? Has it been Cassie or has it really been the Drogos? Has it been the Willow? And honestly,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
been the
leaning
Willow
towards
and the
Willow,
Drogos.
yeah.
Those are the things we know. So Random Noob is just getting what he wants. And every time the draft is panning out, they're not getting their really primary tank options. They're getting a decent healer, which is one of the things that you could say. You're confident with either of the ones they picked up, but I mean, Rakata playing Strix into Kinessa, you got to give, I think, the edge to Rock Monkey here most of the time. And I don't know. I think Shadow's just been on not his primary champion here, which would have been a Blaster, and they just don't have a lot of, I don't know, versatility in this draft.
Considering the last Frog Isle map from Envy, I'm looking to Rock Monkey if he's going to perform.
Yeah.
If he has a less than stellar game, if Rakata can get a lot of good shots onto him first and make that difference, then I think Splyce can start turning that into essentially a 4v5 for every fight. But how often can you bank on Rock Monkey having a bad game? It's not something you can truly rely on.
Yeah.
So Kinessa, Strix, that matchup's going to be important, but Rubu's on pretty much his signature champion. He's on the Fernando, and G-Bunny, even though you can flex, even though Ruckus is great, I don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I don't know either, and this is what we're going to see. Ruckus and, obviously, Ruckus and Barrack. They were really dominant for Envy last time, but there was no Blaster to kind of make them feel a little bit less tanky than they did. Vayne pushing up onto Rock Monkey and Splyce, have 45% and counting. Forcing Envy to retreat is a good start. But Envy are not out yet. They pulled back his 5, and they will be able to aggress back on his 5 as well, so Splyce have to be careful.
This is where things get a little hairy for a Barrack sitting on the point. 3,400 health is not a whole lot.
Uh-oh.
And Ashe is a bully. She's going to knock you around unless you can throw up a shield, and just in time, the turrets are going to be able to get a little bit of damage. If Rakata can put a little pressure onto Tulki, that will make the biggest swing in favor. But G-Bunny's locked in a corner.
Yeah, and this is a good angle. I mean, this is definitely Splyce playing their draft well enough. Rakata's hitting big shots, and that's it. The objective captured for Splyce. So they start off tremendously well in comparison to the last round. It's Envy who take all the points on Splyce's map, and now so far, Splyce have taken all the points on Envy's map.
Got to make sure that Rakata, even though he's been hitting some stellar shots, has one thing called out. Threw a flashbang, just right off the map, didn't connect with anyone. I think he didn't expect the shot to kill off Willow, and so he went for the combo, which makes sense. I like the way he played it, but it is worth noting that that's not going to come through. But it's at 60%. It charges so fast.
This man has hit some shots, though. I will tell you, he is hitting some shots. Again, what has it all done? No one's died. He's even hit headshots. I mean, he didn't miss a shot in like 8 in a row. And it's still Envy who ended up pushing. Oh, hard to perform drafts yet again. I think if he's on Kinessa's there, he hits one headshot, and that's a kill, and then they're pushing in a 5v4, and that's why, man, maybe just a day late and a dollar short with the type of draft that they're grabbing. And in the same vein, Tugor, if someone takes a Kinessa that early, and Strix is open, it really feels like Envy are okay that you take Strix.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like that's fine. We will be willing to deal with it.
And it goes back to what we were talking about on the desk, where it's just Envy have not only a coach, but they also are very prominent at drafting. They have been known for their drafting phase for a long time.
There you go.
And so looking at what has Splyce done in the past that makes them successful? What did they do against G2 that made them look good? What do with these, like, what are these guys on Splyce known as for champions? Rakata, his Kinessa is something you will remember because you will see highlights of it time and time again. His Strix, he's got highlights of it, but not against the top teams.
Yeah, because look at him. I mean, it's kind of like the guy who's, you know, been fortunate to receive a small loan of $1 million to start his life. And all of a sudden, he's got $2 million. He's just sitting in an office. He's just put the money in an account and had someone else actually put that money in the account for him. And then you see the blue collar, the hard worker, Rakata hitting every single shot. He's just working so hard, and he's min-maxing, and he's hitting it. And Rock Monkey just stands over and just like, one headshot, one kill, cool. All right, what else do I need to do? I'll back off here. It's just so much easier for him to have a bigger impact.
We do have Shadow finally getting at least a little bit into the conversation. A nice disengage gets rid of Random Noob for a little bit, but I mean, 6 seconds to go 50% of the push. It's a small push. It's not that hard to go all the way for 50%, but you're against Envy. You force the Immortal. That's going to be good, and Flame is popped as well, just trying to keep the fight going.
I think you win that. I mean, if you get there in Flame, but you only use an Immortal, like that's a trade I would take because Inflame is so valuable. The only thing, though, is that the Inflame, it charges up so much faster. Rock Monkey has a lot to do, and he's going to get a double kill here. Are you kidding me? A triple kill from the Kinessa. Envy, they definitely had the momentum as far as defense, but Rock contributes a huge amount, 5-0, and so far has definitely won the sniper battle.
Mr. Hayes having the perfect support slash line. 0-0 and 8 as well. So providing Rock Monkey support, providing the team support really when it comes down to it, and just letting him, again, sit back as Knessa, like you said, have an easy time. Who am I going to find the headshot on? Oh, I need to fall back for a little bit. It's okay. I'll come back. I am an ever-present threat for your team, Splyce. You have to constantly play around where is this Knessa playing right now.
Look at, I mean, Ruckus, Barrick, they all have a lot of work to do. Ruckus probably the best one to dive Rock Monkey. Because Rock Monkey can transport around. Maybe you Hexfire, he transports away and he's out of line of sight. Oops. But Rubu, I mean, Tolki, I mean, where's Strix going to go if they get to the back line? It's a very, very strong potential aggression. Fireball at the ready. He's just going to focus Vayne, and that's actually Brand. That's 85% less heal. It forces the shield cooldown as well. Rubu finding some good damage in this fight, forcing one of the Rocket's boots from Barrick, and now, oh my goodness, Shadow's low. He's got the ticking damage, and that's it. Rock Monkey cleans it up. He pushed him into the line of sight. Rubu just corralling everyone.
A nice shield comes up from Rubu, just being able to stay alive and retreat. You do lose Random Noob, but it doesn't really matter. 36% right now on the point in terms of control. Rubu still holding this angle, holding this ramp, and making sure that everyone on Splyce feels maybe a little bit too scared to try and aggress. But Envy give up a lot of ground really fast when they lose Mr. Hayes.
Yeah, no, it was a big shot. Rakata actually jumped up and I think must have headshot or at least done enough to finish off Mr. Hayes. So if you're happy with their 60%, one of the things we'll see, Fanatics, Navis, the best teams out there, they'll pull back. They know they do not need 99%. They don't need to die with 99% on and get fully zoned away and give the capture point up. They'll take 60, and then they'll reaggress once they find some poke.
Almost finds the flick. Does find the follow-up shot, though. And that's, again, you could see Rock Monkey. He's waiting to see where's that flash coming from. Which side is he standing on? Where do I need to aim? Is he going to go for the stealth? It doesn't really matter. He's not going to look at him. He's going to instead look at the healer. Yeah. Furia barely getting out of that alive.
Good play from her. But, I mean, it feels like there's not, I mean, Rubu contributing that. It's just putting him in a nice little range. Rakata's trying to 100-0 bunny hop somebody with an owl's mask on him. It's just, it's not the same game these two are playing. Overtime. So much harder to perform. And given that, Gore, I think he's done a good job. I just think, again, Envy seem to just have the better in, the easier to execute draft, and they're going to take point number 2 here on Frog Isle.
And it just comes down to something you had mentioned earlier, and I think is worth looking at the numbers. When Rakata jumps up, finds a headshot, cool, 1,800, they're within one more shot of dying. Rock Monkey jumps up, gets a headshot. They're dead. They're just dead for the rest of at least the next 10 seconds or so.
Yeah.
So you get so much control every single time Rock Monkey, whether he fires 1 or 4 shots to kill someone,
right,
he's still getting more value, I think, per shot than we're seeing out of Rakata, which is just unfortunate because the numbers are just swinging in favor of Envy.
And I think he snowballs a little better, honestly. I think he can keep a fight going. Honestly, Transporter is one of the biggest things, if not the biggest on a map like this, that separates Knessa from Strix, because the mobility is everything. To disengage from a fight, Strix can't really do it. He has to try to hide, but on Frog Isle, there's nowhere to hide. Everyone knows where you are. The other thing is just the damage. She just has much more damage than Headhunter. She can get a 3,000 headshot when she activates that, and Rock Monkey has put that to good use to clean up a couple of kills. Vayne now getting low. Rubu with the brand. I mean, they've got anti-heal on the front line, which Ruckus and Barrick do not have. It is just a very strong draft, and again, a strong push here. And that's the relocation. That's the transporter. Strix could never make this play. Headshot, double headshot. See you later. And despite that, Strix is leading in damage. So look how many shots he's actually hitting. It's incredible.
He's putting out as much as he can. 5-4-2 for Rakata, but 10-0-5 for Rock Monkey. Even though his damage isn't keeping up, his kills are surpassing what you're seeing out of Rakata. And again, this goes back to what I think we covered on the desk, where you've seen Rakata and Shadow already have their performance. They've done it against top teams. Rakata is still able to accomplish something against a top team, even though it's probably not anywhere near the most successful bout he's had.
Right.
You're looking more at G-Bunny and Vayne. Aspect, he's the support. You don't really have to look at him to have stellar games, right? He just has to have good healing. But G-Bunny and Vayne, if they're getting bullied out, it affects the performance. They aren't creating the space that Rakata and Shadow are used to.
Well, yeah, and I mean, part of it is that they've got a Willow going against them, right? It's on all facets. This draft is excellent. Nice shot. He almost hits it, but Tolki distracts, I think, 3 or 4 there. Maybe take the opportunity. Great Dread Serpent from Mr. Hayes. Rubu Tolki clean it up. He is unstoppable. 12 streak double kill for the Fernando, and he's looking for one more. Shadow's going to roll. Gets the heal. But he's all but out of this fight. Envy 3-1, and now looking to zone to finish off game 2.
I can't think of a better analogy for Rock in a hard place than between Tolki and Rubu, where they're just pressuring you on both sides. There is no way to walk out of it and feel safe, and this is just solid engagement, solid pressure, a nice Immortal to just immune most of this Hexafire.
No.
Envy are playing this to the note.
And Mr. Hayes, look at that, hitting the globs of spit, giving the heals. Rubu's having fun, but I think Rock Monkey and the rest of Team Envy, with Rock not dying at all in that game, realize that this one is going their way. It's a 4-1 victory, and this time goes to Envy yet again.
And I feel like we're looking at the same thing that we were actually talking about with SK, where it's just, you have really solid players. I feel like Splyce has really solid players, but the drafting does matter almost as much, if not more, honestly, at the initial point of a game, because it can swing things so heavily in your favor, whether items matter or not for a roster. And you can see, again, 65k damage, a lot. Actually, I think 50 is coming down from Random Noob and Rubu as well. 12-0, 10-2. I think you can see where a lot of the problem was.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, Random Noob goes 2-6, but his role that he plays is what I like. The Fernando, the Tolki pressure. I mean, Rubu and Tolki did a great job, as you mentioned, but Rock Monkey, 12-0. That's a hell of a stat line, and it shows that the sniper battle definitely was won by him. A couple of beautiful headshots to turn the tide of these fights.
All I can think of is just stories that some players have given that when they first had to go up against Rock Monkey, they kind of thought he was aimbotting, honestly. Like, they genuinely didn't think it.
He definitely would, yeah.
And going back to LAN, a lot of these guys, they were like, you just want to watch Rock Monkey's camera all day. Like, you don't want to watch anyone else. You want a camera that shows his hand on his mouse and then his monitor. And that's all you need to see, because he is just insane at flick shots, snipers, anything. His aim is so good.
And, you know, he lets that Furia kind of dance and actually its aspect kind of almost move into his aim, which is one of the things that you'll see some of these higher level players do. It's not necessarily trying to flick shot everybody and be all over here, go to the right. It's like, I know you're about to juke, and I'm not waiting for that juke pattern. And now, yes, it's happening. It is happening, and I think that's where its aspect felt. It was this kind of like, I'm gonna get headshot again, aren't I? Yeah, I'm just buying time. All right, let's just go to the left. Yep, there it was. There was a headshot. All right, guys, I'll be back in a sec.
Definitely seems like Splyce like the bigger maps. I mean, Ice Mines is one they've gotten great on. Splitstone Quarry is where they're choosing now, and they chose Ascension Peak earlier. All three of those have one thing in common, and it's just they are massive in terms of scale, especially versus like your Bright Marshes, your Jaguar Falls, and your Frog Isles. And I'm curious to see how they're going to go approach this. I didn't actually expect a Drogo's ban. I thought they would try to scoop it up.
I didn't expect a Fernando ban. I truly did. So you're saying you're going to take a Nara.
Which one do you give, Khan or a Nara to Envy?
But if you give, the problem with this is, right, you get Khan, but they get a Nara something, right? So they get the damage preference. Healers aren't mattering too much in this. I mean, you can go with the Damba, you can go with the Furia. I don't know. I think you might Willow. Yeah, it's the Inara Willow.
And again, probably the biggest counter to Inara, I think that we've, counter to Inara, which is just, we can stop you from healing as much as possible to maybe make it a little easier to try and kill you.
Yeah.
It becomes very convoluted towards the end. They go for the Torvald.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Androxus ban, I like it.
Yeah?
Kind of.
Okay.
I feel like it might be a little too early on. I feel like your last pick could have been a lock-in for Torvald plus the combo instead of support
kind of
plus
threaten
the combo.
The triple DPS essentially, and then either go Torvald if you feel like you can't handle the sustain. Yeah, it's an interesting
Especially
thought.
if they go like Maldamba as a support, then there's no real reason to try and hide what you're doing.
Don't tell me Rakata's going Kinessa here. Is that something that's, is that what they're going for? I mean, they could, but
I don't know how well I like that with the Torvald.
Interesting. I don't know, but I don't mind the attempt. I just think there is some potential here with firing line, with the field study. You know, it's not the worst. It's an idea. Again, you look at these champions, the execution threshold for Splyce to succeed is the highest it's ever been in these 3 games. But man, if Eevee does succeed, this could be a good game for them.
I will say it's kind of giving me some vibes similar to like Koga on Ice Mines, right? It's something that's different, maybe something that you didn't truly expect, but you are looking for it. Vayne going to be the one on the Torvald. Shadow this time around going to be bringing out the Eevee Rakata as expected on the Cassie. But all eyes are going to be on Envy. I mean, Tolki on Inara is something that is just a force to be reckoned with. Same thing goes to Rubu. I mean, he's just back on the Ruckus. He's going to be comfortable. Rock Monkey on Leon. Like, I don't think anyone on Envy is really tripping up over the champions they got.
Oh, no. I mean, that's the thing that I've liked about Envy's drafting. They said I'm preparing some big boy drafts. Certainly. I mean, everyone's looked comfortable. Everyone's played what they really wanted to play today and what they really like to play just in Paladins, and that is a big deal. And again, the anti-heal swings incredibly in their favor. Not one champion aside from the Cassie is able to apply that anti-heal, and on the side of Envy, they've got two, so a little bit of an advantage. Random Noob finding Ricotta there, who now takes control of the Cassie. G-Bunny, though, trading out with Rock Monkey up top, which is big.
Pressure, Vayne getting rid of Rubu. That's actually an incredible pickup, but again, it doesn't matter if Envy have 81% on the point because they have Inara. This is part of the reason we've seen her banned out. Part of the reason we've been advocating to ban her out so much is just because Tolki, I mean, it's admittedly kind of like, I'd say sleeper gameplay. What do you do? I'm going to go stand on the point, maybe walk back. Inara can do insane damage, a lot of control, but for the most part, she just stands there and doesn't die.
Yeah, and I mean, Random Noob, he loves controlling this left side with a blaster. We saw his highlight clip to start the set out with the Drogos. He's doing just the same type of job, and I actually really like this because it's one of the Nightshade Willows I see truly prioritizing finding damage on the objective with the Nightshade and forcing those front lines into a bad spot. Rubu has taken the long way around, and I actually don't know if Splyce sniff it out. I actually don't think they know that Rubu is there. So the Ruckus may be hiding here, and they're going to get at least one chance back on the objective, and they're waiting for Tolki, though, to get it going.
Faye Flight up into the air, going to be able to get a lot. Rubu has now shown his face, but he's pressuring out Aspect. Does get taken down. Now it's going to be the Ice Storm, but it's not enough to kill him out.
Look at that. Random Noob shows up at the last second. G-Money's like, oh, I've got him dead to rights. He's pyre-stricken. He's pyre-stricken. He is stunned, and yet still, Random Noob TV saves the day on the Willow. Shadow now in the back line, but he's got to remember that that payload is going more and more towards his base, and there's a Ruckus trying to kill him.
You know, I feel like if you're a Paladin song creator and you need something to the tune of Thunderstruck, Pyrestruck could definitely fit in there.
I agree. Shadow gets a kill, and it is a good kill. It's on Mr. Hayes. So we kind of, that's okay. That's a sacrifice I think as a team you'd be okay to take, but the problem is with Torvald, Vayne is not able to come close to the amount of damage that Ruckus can provide, and Rubu has been a difference maker on this Ruckus whenever he has gotten it. It hasn't looked good on Vayne and G-Bunny as far as the Barrack Ruckus combo. But the Ruckus and Nara is actually the first time we've seen that pairing today, and so far so good for Envy. G-Bunny's almost dead.
Is online, Seismic Crash is online. You have an Enlightenment if you really need it, but as of right now, I feel like they're just cleaning up the kills without any burst damage on the side. Well, I guess the burst is coming from Random Noob as of right now. He's finding so many consistent shots, and it's just clean. And Envy, again, looking just like a dominating force. And this isn't, I think, a good showing of Splyce. This is just showing how great Envy have been in North America.
And a good kill from Shadow there on a Random Noob, but Rubu with the Hexafire. He gets the Fire Strike to go ahead and get healed on up. But unfortunately here, no one on Splyce is alive to see it. Shadow comes in at the very end, realizes, hey guys, I know no one was there, but you realize we just got 2-0'd?
You know, you take a replay of Rubu just standing there with a Pyre Strike as Ruckus, and you erase Rubu, put Phoenix, and it's literally what we saw yesterday. Again, Envy, look at what happens in Europe. They take it, they can apply it, and they can make it just look just as good, if not better, to a certain extent. Rubu is phenomenal on Ruckus, but Mr. Hayes sitting behind him, being able to find those heals, is enabling it so much.
And I guess, you know, it had to be a Maldamba stun, I would assume. That actually was the thing that stunned him. The Pyre Strike maybe was the difference in keeping Rubu alive for that moment. But Mr. Hayes has been running Cherish quite often, and you were doing the talent score, but is he running Cherish this game, or is it the Solar Blessing? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I was looking at all of the other talents except for Fury.
All right, so it is the Solar Blessing. So yeah, that is what he's running. And yeah, I mean, great control of this corridor with either Blaster, Drogos, or Willow, and he's actually running Wrecker. Not the best scaling for Wrecker for Willow. 500 damage, then takes the scaling of that item. But, you know, as far as getting the job done, especially on a Khan who only has 6,000 shielding, it's one of those things where you start to realize, you know what, it's going to get the value today, especially if I want to fight him. A lot of teams and a lot of players start to think about, well, it's not what your champion can do. It's what this map will do to your champion. How can this map fight be augmented to win? And I think if you know Khan's going down with maybe his team and you're going on the left-hand side, you're going to need the Wrecker to beat the Khan back to make sure the battle shouts aren't helping to snowball this fight. So I like the idea.
And that just, again, is a great showcase for all the multifaceted parts of Paladins. Like, I've always said, the draft is a different game. Like, there's two parts of the game. It's the draft. But there's also, well, what's your loadout? What items are they getting? Like, there's so much that you have to pay attention to when you get to this level that will make a small difference. If random noob goes Cauterize or if random noob goes Wrecker, that makes a difference in gameplay.
Yeah, and I think, again, it matches up because they've got the Torvald as well. So you're getting instantly trying to burn through Shadow Shield so you can apply burst damage onto him and make sure that he goes down automatically into the ice block and gets saved. Oh man, now the Kindle Soul comes through and random noob up into the air. He could have been dead a moment ago trying to find the Eevee. The Eevee has rotated away and Rakata takes most of the burst from the Nightshade. G-Bunny looks like he's going to fall soon. Random noob still up top and he spotted Rakata. He's on the catwalk. Somebody get this fairy out of here, they're saying, but I don't think there's time.
Seedling going to be able to explode zone out. The last two members of Splyce are so far away from the point, 89% with the comeback mechanic. Doesn't mean a whole lot if you can't get even into the bowl that is Splitstone Quarry, let alone back into contesting range. You can't find any shots. Tulki is just jumping for joy because he doesn't have anything to worry about.
And they know that the Eevee's going to be there. Does an ice block. She gets the wormhole, and they're just bursting the shield. Look at G-Bunny. Oh, man, that guy melted. This is Envy with the Inflame now. Mr. Hayes just hits the I win button. And Shadow, good luck. Mr. Hayes is going to clean him up with the help of Rock Monkey sliding in. The sign of House Ico, and of course the one blessed by the Pyre. And all of Team Envy are going to take a 3-0 lead here on Splitstone.
Rubu going to jump into the Fountain of Healing just for a little bit to be able to come out now fully on top. And you do see Rock Monkey taking a little bit of damage, but I mean, the healing numbers right now have just been so in favor of Envy. They don't care when they're taking damage because they recognize Mr. Hayes is just going to keep them topped off. They can run into pretty much any engagement they want, and they're still going to be able to walk out not only alive, but successful.
Man, G-Bunny's getting debated right now. What are you doing, buddy? Where are you going? No one is caring. He's going to get Mr. Hayes, but he sacrifices his whole team to do it. I don't know if that was worth, my man. Rock Monkey with 4 kills in a matter of 10 seconds. And now Team Envy, with most of their players alive, are able to push this one potentially to end the set.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say what I had said earlier, and I think it's, again, worth repeating, but in different words. This is not, I think, a good showcase of where Splyce stands, as much as it is a good showing of why Envy is not only undefeated, but are sitting at the top and are looking like the team not only to take down, but potentially even a team that could win a world championship right now.
Absolutely. They are hungry. They are ready. They prepared some big boy drafts. I can't think of a draft Splyce won, and I can't think of a draft Envy didn't win pretty heavily as far as how they were able to succeed. The win conditions were plentiful for the boys of Envious, and I'm excited to see how they continue to play heading on in these later weeks of the NAPPL. Can't really distinguish anybody. Everyone was fantastic, and everyone did their role. And it was just a rough start to a doubleheader for Splyce. A lot of people had hoped this would be a lot tighter, but I think we all assumed that this would go Envy's way at the end of the day.
Yeah, just how fast it went Envy's way is, I think, what is kind of
a little surprising.
Was the thing that broke the back. Was 4-0. I think, what, 3 4-0s in a row, right? Like, I don't know if Splyce were able to take a point. And even then, when they were fighting back, when they got close, it did feel like it was just always just being ripped away by Envy. Like, you were trying to share their toys, they just took it.
Yeah, but we are very excited about Renegades and Splyce, and I think that should be a tighter set. And honestly, the way Envy were preparing these drafts, it feels like Renegades are going to have to match the same level of isolating Rakata, isolating Shadow, putting G-Bunny and Vayne on champions they can't build as much space with, or at least is a lot harder to do so, and making sure that the anti-heal and the blaster preferences are aligned to be able to fill out the composition. A lot of times they had like only Haven damage, only direct damage, and that really hurt in being able to force out some of these front lines. Of course, we got another set coming up. Splyce will be taking on the Renegades, as we just mentioned. It'll be Nick and Gormizer on the cast, so we'll go on a break, and we'll be right back with more North American PPL this Friday.